Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network.
'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven.
A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UBNradio.com.
The past is history, the future mystery. This moment is the gift. Every second
Welcome, Miracle Makers. Do we have an exciting show for you today? And I want to set our intentions really quickly. Our intention for this show, my intention for you, Miracle Makers, is to live a life full of full self-expression and the ability to fully accept everything that's happened to you and to raise your vibration and raise the planetary vibration through embracing everything that has occurred and to co-create the world of your dreams. We've got UBN here, this beautiful station. We've got Sunset Gower stations, the oldest station in Hollywood. And today in studio, we have got one of the most amazing actresses, amazing life transformative coaches, and most amazing women that has been affected by a Me Too experience. In studio, please welcome my special guest, Kimleigh. You're so welcome. So we're co-creating this intention together for everyone to embrace their whatever has been and to elevate into who they're here to be. Let's truly take this world that we've inherited and empower it with love, with mystery, and with the miracle frequency within us.
Yeah. I always say, own your story, own your life.
Own your story.
Own your life.
Miracle
every
Makers.
moment of every day
Yes.
is to be embraced. Oh, that was so beautiful. Thank you for that.
Oh, you're so
I love that
welcome.
openness and really just getting us in that right place of just being those co-creators, not just with us, but with our audience and with everybody that's tuning in. So thank you.
And the years of history of Hollywood that has come through, we get to stand on the shoulders of giants. They've organized great movies, great industry, great music, great ways to reach you, Miracle Makers, and for us to be entertained, educated, powerfully moved. And yesterday we were on the set of one of our dearest friends, Lisa Haysha, and the Soul Blazing, her new TV series that's coming out on Amazon. And we have been intending to create a show for you, Miracle Makers, with Kimleigh on it. And we just realized this was the time. The Me Too movement, this Me Too story, especially with what's happened in Hollywood, we can co-create a new world. And Kimleigh, you are so beautiful. You've lost so much weight. You're on this journey. You've been in shows with Robert Redford. You've been in this studio a lot on shows like Scandal. You've been a one-woman show in Hollywood. You go around the world teaching and doing your show on your experience from age 17 to current day. You just got back from Lithuania recently where they had you come out. Tell us, what have I left out of your bio? Because before we start sharing the story, I want everyone to know how accomplished and what an amazing human being you are.
Thank you. I really have been blessed in my life to do exactly what I'm put on this earth to do. My undergrad was in psychology, and so I found a way in my one-woman show to bring together my psychology, my acting, my dancing, my singing, so a way to like combine all of those things and transform lives. And I think the only thing you really missed out is that what I really love to do is going around the world speaking, performing my show, talking to young men and women that have been through sexual assault and anyone that has been through any kind of trauma in their life, and really helping them become their own superheroes, and really realizing that we already are everything that we need to be. Our good, our bad, our ugly makes up everything that we are. And that is my journey and my purpose on this earth. And so, being able to bring that to every set I'm on, like I'll be on Criminal Minds on November 1st. November 1st coming up this week. So like just being able to do that, but also bringing a light that's bigger than just being an actress who shows up on set. Like having a purpose has been really phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Your one-woman show is phenomenal. Your life story, the journey that you've been on is phenomenal. You were born in Japan, and you've been intercultural most of your life. And at age 17, when you were take us through those really quickly, being born in Japan and how you got to a metoo experience at age 17.
Okay, well, I am a military brat, and my father was Air Force, and may he rest in peace. And I was born in Japan, so I spent the first 10 years of my life in Japan. Those were my formative years. I was a very innocent child. I didn't start my period till I was 16, and you don't really come into that sexual reality until you start your period. And in my life, everybody else had started between like 10 and 12. And so I used to go around pretending like I had. And that was kind of my experience post-Japan. Japan was a place where I realized how important it was to really embrace every culture. It allowed me not to be one-dimensional and really be open to everything. And at that time, I was very innocent, very young, very wide open. And I had my first Me Too experience in Japan on a playground when I was 6 years old, where a gentleman came and exposed himself to me and my friends. And that was the first experience.
I remember you sharing that you and your friends there was like a common neighborhood man that would walk around and flash people.
And so at that point, you don't even know what a penis is, but you know that it's not right. You know that what he's doing on the playground is not right. So we moved to the States when I was 10. We moved to Leavenworth, Kansas, where my mother was born and raised. And again, very small town, very innocent. And I just felt like I was so innocent. And something that's missing in our society is really talking about sexuality and what that means. Even at a young age, I was so innocent. I had no concept of what it was. Like I didn't even really kiss boys until I was like in junior high. And I was just in that place. And so when I graduated from high school, I hadn't experienced sex. I had not very many boyfriends because I was kind of a goober. I was very nerdy and sweet, but nerdy. I was a cheerleader and popular, but everybody always thought I had a boyfriend, so I actually never ended up with one. So when I went to college my freshman year, I was a cheerleader, and I was in love with Mike. Like, he was the dude, and I'm using a fake name, but I was in love with this football player, and he invited me to one of the victory parties. And once we were there, he said, "Oh, I'll walk you home to the dorm." And his two roommates came with me. And again, very innocent. I say yes. And I end up being gang raped by all three of them. And at that point, I had never had sex before. I had no idea what was going on. And I remember being in the room. We were going to go back and play cards, and we didn't. And I was in their room, and they raped me, and I woke up outside of their dorm room with blood rolling down my legs. And in that moment, I thought I started my period. Again, very innocent. I walk up to my dorm room, I shower, and from that point on, I repressed it for 8 years. I repressed the entire experience. I don't remember any of it.
Not remembering didn't mean, though, that it didn't happen.
And
because your psyche
was protecting me.
Your psyche was protecting you. And when did you wake up to remembering it? At what point did it come?
8 years in, I had started to try to date, and I was definitely hysterically paralyzed. So in any sexual experience,
and when you mean hysterically paralyzed, your legs would not move.
Yes, I you could call it frigid. There's a bunch of different terms for it, but in my world, my bottom half would literally freeze up, and be paralyzed. And so I spent those 8 years really not even understanding sex, not really realizing why my body was doing what it was doing. I thought maybe it was my back, maybe it was this. I kept putting it off on other things. And I was in this relationship with somebody that I really wanted to fall in love with, but because of my trauma, I had repressed so much of my sexuality. I repressed so much of myself because I felt like if somebody saw the real me, they would hate me and they would know that I was raped and that I wasn't worth anything. I didn't realize that consciously, but we protect ourselves in so many ways, and we put on our mask. And I was living 8 years of self-destruction. I would hear a man's voice that would remind me of my rapist. I didn't know this, but it would trigger me. And so within that, after the 8 years, I started having these really crazy dreams, like actually penises all over the place. You know, it just kept going everywhere. And I realized this is too real to be a dream. Something isn't right.
And through the course of time, through help, you woke up to what was happening.
Hypnotherapy
Yes.
changed my life.
Yes.
Hypnotherapy, I went to a lot of therapists, but because my undergrad was in psychology, I ended up analyzing them. Like I couldn't let myself be free. And so the hypnotherapy allowed me to like open up and see what really happened. And you know, you think I'm going to go to therapy and everything's going to be great. Awesome. But change don't come easy. And the truth, I would say the truth will set you free eventually. like it is good, but like you got to do the work. I said, don't believe the hype, because you have to do more than just be like, what do they say? The first step in healing is acknowledgement. Awareness.
We go through denial. So you went through all of the stages and you described them so far. You went through denial. The first 8 years was denial.
Yep. The moment
How
I got
could
up
it
was
happen
denial.
to me? And being trained in the military daughter, soldiers carry on, but our souls know that we've been wounded in some way. And when we look at the scope of our lives, in our darkest times, in the darkest moment, is part of where the purpose of our life gets really invested in changing the life that's possible for humanity. By you, that denial, 8 years you functioned, and then you had anger about it. And instead of the anger being on the outside, the anger was on the inside in your body. So there was denial, then there was anger, then there was that little bit of bargaining. Hey, let me find some therapist. And you were bargaining with them, trying to share your story, but no one quite got it. Mm-hmm. And then there was the acceptance. And you went through and accepted what happened. And then there came the big doing or depression. You either have to do something that really transforms that journey, or you dive into depression with it. And so, miracle makers, let me describe that for you again. Whatever has happened in your life, you're going to go through denial. You're going to have anger. And unless the anger gets expressed on the outside, the anger is going to show up in your body and cause dis-ease. The first step of transforming your life will be bargaining with what happened to you. Maybe it's not so bad. Maybe I can heal. Maybe this, maybe that bargaining stage. Then there is the acceptance. When you totally accept what happens to you, you then have two choices. Either you're going to go into depression and go deeper into your body and deeper into anger, or you're going to do something. You're going to create something with that. And Kimleigh created something beautiful.
That was beautiful. And there is, within those stages, I remember my rock bottom was punching my boyfriend, this guy that I wanted to love. And I punched him out and got thrown out of a bar in the rain on my birthday. And I knew at that point that I had to do something. So you're right on point. Before I was human doing instead of human being. I was doing everything to like run away from what had happened to me. Just running away. Oh, I'll do this for you. I'll do that for you. What do you need me to do? Do, so that I wouldn't have to deal with what I had to deal with. Once I hit that rock bottom, I knew I had to make a difference. I knew I had to change my life because I wanted to be a thriver and not just a survivor. You know, like I survived the minute I got off the floor and went up to my room and showered. That was my survival. I wanted to be a thriver, somebody who was living a healthy, happy, amazing life. And that's really what I focused on. And I was really afraid to write this show, but I knew something in me kept saying, own your story, own your life. From that point on, my story owned me. It had power over me, over my body. It was creating the disease in me. That's why I was hysterically paralyzed. It controlled who I was. And I said, the only way I can control that is by honoring my story, owning it, and living it. And that's when I wrote my show, Totally, my one-woman show. And Totally is that full circle. You can't do anything half-assed when you're totally doing it. You're totally living fully. There's no room for kind of doing. You're totally, and that's where the title came from. So I wrote my story from head to toe, and it was funny. As I was writing it, I was doing it with a friend, and we were going to put our shows up for one night, and I spent the whole time helping him on his show that I hadn't worked on mine. It was 2 weeks before I was supposed to perform this. We already got the space, and I didn't have a show. And because I was so focused on healing, God, the universe, literally brought it to me in my dream. Every single detail of my show came in a dream. And I remember calling my friend and saying, get a video camera. He videotaped everything that was in my dream, and I transcribed it. And it was a gift that was given to me.
That gift that was given to me. You were willing to do the work. You named it. You called it. You set a date. And the universe, God, source, the miracle frequency got activated in your dreams. And then you took action steps to write it down and create something that allows you to be totally who you're here to be, rather than just doing for others. You got to be who you are and create something magnificent and powerful. So Miracle Makers, this show, where we're going to go next with this, is really to give you steps. If you are a guy or a girl, and this is really important, Kimleigh, this was really important to you to share as well, the social media conversation, about what's happening with girls and guys, the metoo movement. Dear friends, guy or girl, violence is violence. Even though we see men separate from ourselves, and we have a stereotype that's gone down through the ages, my work and my research in Egypt shows that we carry both. On the physical, you are one. You're either masculine or feminine. There are very few people that are born that have both sexes. And in Egypt and in India and ancient traditions, they are just thought to be so blessed. So we're physically born with one sex. Both of us female. Our producer, Jarvis here, male. And the other body, our light body, the one that we see in Carillion photography, the one that we are documenting in the field, has the opposite sex. So our physical body being female, we both carry in our light bodies the masculine body. We can, in our bodies, produce either male or female when we get pregnant. A man carries a female light body. This is the mystery school teachings of Egypt, the mystery school teachings in the Essenes, in the works of ancient India and Chinese medicine. All of the talk about us carrying both. And in biblical references, it really states God gave us everything, held nothing back. And how is it possible that God gave us everything? We can be both male and female. In our physical bodies, we are one. form, and in our light bodies, we are the opposite form. And that way, sometimes we're meant to act as feminine receivers, men and women, and men are meant to act as masculine givers. Or when we're in our masculine, we are gracefully giving and giving from our hearts. When we're in our sacred feminine, divine feminine, we are receiving, just graciously receiving. And when we do a gracious flow around that, a third energy is created. This grace is created. This is why it's so important when we're in a sexual act or when we're expressing our sensuality, that there be a giver and a receiver and the third entity of grace coming in. Through that grace, we can form babies. Through that grace, we can create the most magnificent artisan things. If you're with a same-sex partner, you can create so many beautiful things from expressing love to the highest degree. We are both masculine and feminine. We just have to know when it's time to be that. And if someone receives your physical body without your permission, whether you are male or female, there are steps that you can take. And we're going to talk about those steps on the physical and what to do to get help until you're so much more able to become and accept all that you're here to do, and no longer let your story, like you said, Kimleigh, let your story own you. When you own your story and you give that story to Source, to God, to the graces, you can create such beauty with that. And I'd love for you to take it from there for...
Yes. It's so true because, like I said earlier, before I owned my story, I was debilitated by it. It made me feel worthless. It made me feel unwanted, undesired. And I knew that I had assigned those thoughts to that story. Every story we have, everything that happens in our life, we assign the meaning to.
Yes.
Yes? And so I knew that I needed to redefine what my meaning of myself was, because I didn't deserve that and I didn't ask for it and it wasn't my fault. And that's the first step, is really forgiving yourself. Self-forgiveness is the very first thing you need to do, because most people that have been through sexual assault or any type of violence or trauma blame themselves for doing it as if they deserved it. No one deserves to be taken advantage of. No means no, and that's what this beautiful Me Too movement is about. Every single male and female that have been able to say Me Too said no.
They said no. And at some point, if you're in a relationship with someone that did not have the choice to whether to say yes or no, it was taken from them. The process there is to really invite, to be the most inviting space for that flowering to happen. And so if you want to share how that happened for you.
It's interesting because, like I said, I squashed so much of my sexuality, and I had no idea what it really meant to be intimate, not just in a sexual connection, but in any kind of connection. Because when you blame yourself for everything, you don't trust yourself, so you're never going to trust another person. And so I needed to find trust within myself, which was first self-forgiveness. Once I found my self-forgiveness, and mine was all through writing. I believe that writing is the most cathartic thing that you can do in transforming out of victim to survivor to thriver and really becoming your own superhero. Is writing. You find the thing that you fear the most and you start there. And as you start to shed those fears away and you start to express them and share them, you start to realize that they no longer have power over you. When you start to own what you have to say, there's no longer power. So how I rediscovered my sensuality and sexuality, I felt that was my biggest block. It was a block that I had even before I was raped. And so really having that intimacy, because I didn't really see it with my father and mother. And I think I kind of carried that on through relationship. And once I was raped, I became small, and I was starting to feel unsmall because I was starting to write and really discover myself. And I realized that I had lost my innocence because my rape was my first sexual experience, and I wanted my innocence back. I wanted to feel beautiful and innocent and powerful and sexual and amazing. And so I decided to take a lover. And that was the first time I had control in sexuality. Before, I would be in a relationship and I would just do it because that's what she did. Didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Didn't have an intimate connection. We weren't soul blazing each other as you
Yes.
were. Thank you, Lisa. We
Yes.
weren't doing that. I was passive in that. And I believe that sexuality needs to be celebrated. And I believe that is a big corner that we're going to turn that will stop violence. We do not celebrate sexuality in our country. We're still in a very puritanical society where it says, you are dirty if you want to have sex. If you're a man, you can have as much sex as you want. But if you're a woman, you are a slut or a whore. There's a lot of slut shaming around women who want to express themselves physically and sexually. So when I took my first lover, it was amazing. And he gave me the freedom to be everything and anything I wanted to be in the bedroom. And we got to explore each other in a way that was spectacular. And it was exactly what I needed. And it gave me that power back in the sense that now I own my body. I can say yes when I want to say yes. I can say no when I want to say no. I can pleasure myself, pleasure another human being, pleasure each other. Like, it was the first time in my life that I actually had an orgasm and really was able to enjoy what sexuality was. And once I had that, I was free, because I no longer blamed myself and felt that the only thing I was worth was sex. But I knew that I had so much more to offer in every aspect of my life. And having that sexual freedom gave my body, we are instinctual, animalistic humans because we have a libido that is drawn to whatever,
Yes.
you are drawn to. And there is no shame in that. No shame in that at all. And when I stopped having shame around wanting to be sexual and loving my body and loving who I am, that shame lifted and allowed me to be full and really step into my queendom.
Stepping into the queendom. And for me, stepping into the queendom was so different.
Mm-hmm.
My Me Too story has been shared several times. Miracle Makers, go back to the old. Please go revisit.
I don't know the Me Too story.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Can you do a cliff
Yes,
note?
I can
Cliff
do
notes?
cliff notes. I did this on Soul Blazing as well yesterday when we were airing and filming for that. So with Lisa Haisha on this new show on Amazon, sharing that. It was when I was 14 years old. My grandfather, in front of the whole, what seems like the village, asked if I was ready to be married. This is the 2-minute version of the story. And everyone in my family, being born in Pakistan, this beautiful land of innocence and purity that we grew up in, my grandfather, grandmother, the way that we see it, still part of India. The 2-minute version, the tradition is you have arranged marriages.
Right.
Even though I was growing up mostly in New Orleans for the past maybe 5 years, when I turned 14, when my period started, I got married off.
Wow.
The choice point was my grandfather asking me in front of our entire family of villagers, do you take this man to be your husband, who had only met once, 28-year-old man, a doctor. I was 14.
Wow.
He'd done everything right in his life up to that point, obedient son, getting married to the prime daughter of two primed, just the best, the granddaughter, the best that society has to offer from every end, two families uniting that way. So my first Me Too experience was being raped on a wedding bed. Then 5 years in, it's a really hard story. Clothes being taken away, being locked in closets, not being, because grandmothers and lives being threatened to control me, and me trying to make sure no one else has a Me Too experience or a marriage right as soon as they start their period. By age 19, I'm completely left for dead. I've had multiple near-death experiences. I've signed away all of my property. My family, I've embarrassed them in that society. Your worth is your reputation. If your reputation is stained, and if it's stained by a daughter or by your daughter-in-law, no one in your family can get married, and a lot of the business deals or resources aren't available. So as a young 19-year-old having all of this on my shoulders, years and years of it, I decided I was going to be the Mother Teresa of medicine. Magically got into college, miraculously got into Kastuba Medical College. They had it's the third best med school back then in India. And they had a program for foreigners. I mean, it's a magical story all the way across the form. I got to be a doctor back and help women like myself give birth or emergency room medicine. I got to do research and develop new programs. And then God, in a small, still voice, spoke to me and told me to hang out with my husband. I knew how to listen to that voice. He wasn't my husband yet, but I knew I'd learned how to listen in the field. I saw angels. They helped me through not one lost life, not one difficulty in the field in different countries, helping people as a doctor, even in this country, helping people it was really beautiful. When I met Greg and my Me Too story, I shared with him in third person. I learned to silence what had happened to the 14-year-old, to the 19-year-old. I'd learned people didn't want to hear that story, or they didn't know how to be with it. No therapist would believe me at the time. In the United States, they didn't get it. There weren't therapists that got the whole cultural references at that time. And so you get it. You understand that whole experience, and I've shared that extensively in various ways.
Thank you for sharing.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. So for me, the work was with my husband, who got me present in the moment. The work was listening to that small, still voice. The work was looking in the mirror. And when I became pregnant with my daughter was when I started healing my eating disorder. I had shame manifest in my body in a lot of ways. I was a cigarette smoking, coffee drinking doctor with great stories and a great laugh and a great way to help. But physician, heal thyself. When I met my husband, as a friend, shared my Me Too story, then for me, the work was looking in the mirror. Was saying, I love you. I accept you. My walking out of shame story was Byron Katie's work, who Byron Katie really asks you to deeply show up in the world. She says, who would you be without that story or without that thought in your head? How would you show up for this person if your story wasn't saying you're not good enough you're not good enough to hang out with Lisa Haisha and be on this national TV show? Who would you be without that story? Who would you be with your husband if you weren't thinking about all of the painful past and brought yourself just into the moment? And so for me, and Greg and I love our sex life. We have such a great, for me, it was very much in the safety of that, because that fits who I am. And that's being authentic to me and to explore it together with this beautiful human, beautiful man who adores me. Like we met within 10 months, he started saying, I'm happy as humanly possible.
Yes,
and
he told me that.
He wrote a book, Happy as Humanly Possible, and then he worked on becoming better friends with his and teaching men how to be better friends with their fathers and with their children, and becoming present in the moment. And that, for me, whatever your Me Too story is, whatever man or woman, get present. Figure out what you want to experience.
Yes.
And for so many people, it's being able to explore themselves, being out in the world and taking a lover.
Yes.
For others, it's looking at yourself in the mirror and accepting who you are and completely loving yourself and loving the promises that you've made to that point. Or, yes.
Well, I love this because we're two different people with similar experiences, different, but like sexual assault is sexual assault. But what I love about this is that each of us are dealing with it in a different way. And what I challenge you to do is to figure out what works for you. I did the mirror exercise as well. And the first time I looked in the mirror to look in my own eyes, because when we communicate with others, we look in each other's eyes. But we never look in our eyes. We look at our face, our pimples, that nose thing. Oh, I don't really like this. But we never look in our eyes. And that was one of the most powerful things that I ever did. The first time I did it for 2 seconds, I would cry. 2 seconds. I couldn't say one word nice about myself. Now I can talk in the mirror forever and be like, what's up, girl? You're so beautiful. How's life? And that's what I challenge you to do when we start celebrating ourselves and really honoring ourselves. And it's hard to do because we've had that voice in our head for so long telling us we're not worthy. We're not good enough. And that mirror exercise was so transformative. And it was the thing, just that you brought that up, it just reminded me of how much that was important. And also like the power of owning your story, like being okay with not being perfect. I believe that we're perfectly imperfect, that we have everything we need. And we fall down. We forget that when we were kids learning how to walk, we would fall down and hit our head or knock our knee. We'd cry a little bit, but we always got back up. That's what transformation is. Being able to allow yourself to mess up and forgive yourself for that and allow yourself to keep on going, acting in spite of fear. Like really, we gotta give ourselves little room to mess up and to fall down and to get back up and to keep on walking. And that's what really being a superhero is. It's not, any origin story isn't perfect. That means they've gone through something and then they found this inner power. We all have this amazing inner power. We're all put on this earth to do the most amazing things, and know that your greatest obstacle will be your greatest gift. When you honor that obstacle, like my rape, I never thought it would turn into me going around the world helping people overcome their traumas. And that's where it's at, because I honored it. Yes. And I loved it. And I own it. And there's nothing that I have fear or shame around. I speak about it openly. I speak about what I need openly. And I am not a married woman. I've chosen to be a single, successful woman, and I respect that and honor it and love it. But I don't disrespect anybody that chooses to be married and have children. That's what's so beautiful about this. Yes, one day perhaps I will, get married, but now I get to enjoy whoever I feel like enjoying whenever I feel like enjoying it. Was that a little much?
Yes, that's so perfect. It's who are we to judge is the most important thing. Who are you without those limiting thoughts? Who you are, and the Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians, again, bring in, we have 365 senses. They have on the ancient walls all of the different ways to initiate and activate those senses within our brain, within our body. The healing mechanism we call spontaneous healing or spontaneous remissions.
I love it.
But it's if we get a cut, we expect it to heal. Our body knows how to heal itself, and it's really for you, miracle makers, for you to fully embrace and understand whatever has happened. Your body already has the healing mechanism within it. It's got the pharmacy within it, and it's got the ability to magnetize and bring the right people to make your miracle happen in the world. Once you really, truly understand, we already know in science there's 21 senses and counting. In Western medicine, we have documented 21 plus. If you want to take a trip with me to Egypt, if you get accepted,
I think I can get accepted. Maybe not.
you can definitely be accepted. Oh, we'd love for you to come.
I would love that.
Oh,
because we talked about it yesterday, and I was like, or Friday.
Friday.
And I was like, yes, that is something. I wanted to take that journey for a while, so I'm really excited to be able to do that with you.
That's so awesome.
And the magic that's in you. Like, I'm super excited. We'll talk more.
We'll talk
more.
Yes, and you're definitely accepted. We only have a few spots left, but you get one for sure.
Because you said that, and it was like, I've been wanting that that next level journey. You know, I think, remember, every level we reach, there's another level to reach, and not in a desperate way where I've got to get to another level, but we get to a place where that's as far as we can go. And I always say, if everything I've done so far has gotten me here, what would I need to do to continue to grow? And we're constantly growing and evolving. And if you're not growing, it means you're healing. And sometimes we got to take that downtime to take in everything that we learn and honor it and own it so that we can flourish with it. Growth comes from you plant the seed, you put the dirt over it, and you let those roots take root. And if you don't give yourself the time to let those roots take root, the fruit's going to be yucky. Yes. You want your fruit to be delicious, and it's only delicious if you take the time to continue to grow and learn what you've learned. Like, learning is so powerful, and transformation is all about what you take in, how you receive it, and how you put it back into the world.
It's what you put back into the world is the key. And
that's your fruit.
That's your fruit. And what I love about the journey that you've been on, you stopped doing. You shared that very powerfully. You were out there doing for everyone else. You were even doing for this, for your partner who was going to do the show with you. You had to
the last minute.
To the last minute. You have to put down doing at some point to hear the small, still voice. And you can do that. It's great to do it on a journey. If Lisa Haisha takes people on journeys, you are teaching around the world now. And if there's a chance for people to come see you, it's a journey that your story takes you on. Yes. When you share your story, the audience is following you and your journey and reliving it by not having to do something, but being with you on the journey. What we do in Egypt, what we do on this journey is we put down the mundane doing and we celebrate and initiate who we are being on the planet, and we read the symbols, and we go into the King's Chamber all by ourselves as a group, and we're in these chambers after traveling the Nile, after being in these amazing spaces. We then realize the senses, the superhero, the miraculous powers that were always in us all along time. It's one of my knowings. Energy's never created and never destroyed. It's just transformed and upgraded to a higher expression. We take lower energies and raise them higher and higher and higher. And this is one of the things that with great joy, enjoying great shows, enjoying great art, lets you put down the doing so you can hear your small, still voice and figure out who you're here to be. And when you know who you're here to be and what you really, really like and want, that's when you begin creating from this space that's co-creating with Source. You're going to magnetize all the people over and over again to help you become who you're here to be. And sometimes when you're not proactive, you'll invite the wrong people energetically. When you take, it's not your fault. It's not that space, but it's because you're meant to be something within yourself. These experiences show up for you so you can really actively embody your body and not what society's idea of who you should be, or the militant doer, or because I know in Japan, how you appear to the outside world. This is a real segue to take the conversation now to a little bit where the outside world, you have to be perfect. In Japan, especially in the Asian world, women are held to, and men even, to such a high standard that it's hard to be vulnerable.
Yes.
That's why you're going to Lithuania. They're calling you to these other places. Can you speak about that for a little bit?
Yes. Wow, I was just really taken in by that idea of like really standing purposefully in your life. And once I wrote my show, I was standing purposefully, like not doing, but allowing people to go on that journey with me allows them to have the freedom to be as honest and open as I am. Because once you realize that you're not the only one, it transforms in you. And somebody saw my show in New York, and she was a Lithuanian woman, and she was like, I want to bring your show to Lithuania. And Lithuania is very different than our culture, and especially in the sexual realm. And men are one way and women are another, and it's very definitive. And it was great to go there because I really wasn't sure if they would get my jokes. There's not a lot of African Americans there. I was of the only one that I saw the entire time I was there, and I was there for a week. I did 3 shows, 3 speeches, and people got every single moment. Because when you own your story, everybody hears it. And everybody understands it because everybody wants the same thing. They want to transform their lives from pain into happiness. And that's my journey, and really powerfully done out of humor and tears and all of the good stuff, because that's what life is. Life isn't just, sometimes you do something stupid and you laugh at yourself, and sometimes you do something stupid and you cry. Like, that's just human. And so being able to go to a country where I had subtitles behind me in Lithuanian, and I had a Lithuanian translator, and people still getting the journey, that's when I knew I had something that was globally ready to transform the world. And that's what I've stepped into. And, I've been to Hawaii, I've been everywhere. And if you're interested in having me come, just reach out to my website, because it's a journey that we all get to go on. We get to transform each other. And I do believe that it's a transformation that needs to be done with both men and women. It's not a one-sided. The Me Too experience isn't one-sided, and the only way we make change is by joining forces and uniting as one to make a difference. I mean, you just can't do it without, because it takes 2 to tango in any aspect in life. And if we don't come together, we're losing both our young men and our young women. We want everybody to be able to celebrate their bodies, their beauty, their lives, their inners, their outers, their everything. We don't want to live in a culture where people have one face out here and a different face in there, where they're angry and sad and cutting themselves and hurting themselves. I want a life in a world of people that love who they are, every aspect of it.
Every aspect
of it.
Every aspect. And every aspect is not what you see on the 2-dimensional world of social media, that world. It's important to be able to have face-to-face conversations and connect and create intimacy. And I break up the word intimacy to into me you see.
Oh, I love that.
Into me you see. When you really bring in intimacy. And sometimes when you bring in intimacy and you allow yourself to really powerfully, for me, with my husband, the mirror work, intimacy, look at me intimately, and seeing myself really hearing, what do I want? And holding that space, and then etching away, saying no to all the things that I didn't want anymore. I had to put down who I was being in the past.
Yes, you must let go of who you are for what you'd like to become.
Yes,
that's beautiful.
Yes, and you can't create a new world if you keep doing the same things over and over again.
Keep holding on to the same things over and over again.
You can't pick up something new. So one of my things early on was make more mistakes.
Yes,
because I didn't know what I liked. There was this Julia Roberts movie at one point where she talked about eggs, like she was the runaway bride. She didn't even know what kind of eggs she liked at the very end. Very similar for you miracle makers might be you don't even know what you like because you've taken on so much of the outside world as part of your preferences and what you want to show up as, your parents, your grandparents, the society, the expectations, social media, school. And so the more you listen to yourself, and for me, that started with make more mistakes. And so
so true.
I went and tried on a whole lot of different personalities, different things for a little while, tried different ideas, different people, different friends, different groups, different circles. And that was part of mistakes. And then I broke down mistakes to the word mistakes.
Yes.
So that I really wanted to know what I wanted to take. The ones that experiences I wanted to have more of is what I started to become better and better at. Yes. But I had to do a bunch of mistakes. And from that, I learned what I actually wanted to have happen. And that's how the show Miracle Makers meeting a Hollywood elite. And you are such a gift. What you have created has been so profound. You're also part of, you have a nonprofit of your own. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
The nonprofit is Embrace Your Cape Enterprises nonprofit, and it really is about the healing of sexual assault survivors. Bringing men and women together. My team is both men and women to help them own their stories, write their stories, create their stories, and bring their stories to life so that they can have profound healing, and also so that they can reclaim their sexuality, reclaim their power, and really step into what they're here to do. And for me, it came through writing, and I believe that writing experience is what is transforming lives. And I also just set up a safe space. And part of what we do are training other people to go and take this workshop that we teach and teach it in other places, because I'm building superheroes, building superhumans that aren't afraid to mess up and make mistakes and continue to grow. So the nonprofit is all about really healing sexual assault survivors and turning them into thrivers, and really letting them live the lives of their dreams instead of the life of fear and shame and blame. And that is where it's at. It's a beautiful, it's new. I'm so excited to be a part of it and create something where people can tell their stories in a way that I have, whether they're going on the road to do it or just telling it to one person, just getting it out.
Getting it out. And awesome. So that nonprofit, that work is so important. Mm-hmm. You can create something with your story, what's happened, and people come to you from the very start of their experience and walk out transformed.
That's right.
So that's beautiful. And then you're coming to Egypt with us. Yes. Wow.
It's super exciting. Yeah, you said it on Friday and it hit me.
Yeah, December 26th to January 9th.
This December. I thought you were doing it in March.
There's more in March as well. So I'll tell you about that one as well. And then we've got one more place that we want to send you guys is...
If anyone or anyone you know has been sexually assaulted or experienced some kind of sexual trauma and they need immediate help, please send them to rain.org. It was 1...
2 N's.
Yes. RAINN.org. And the phone number
is
1-800-656-HOPE. If you're in immediate danger, please call 911. If you're ready to transform, go to embraceyourcape.com. Reach out to my team. You are not alone. I just want you to know that if you have experienced this, and like they say, it's 1 in 4 women and 1 in 16 men that have been sexually assaulted. Take a moment, look around. 1 in 4, 1 in 16. This is epidemic, and we want to stop this cycle of violence. Step up. We're here for you. There's so many organizations that are here to help you through this transformation from survivor to thriver. This is the time. RAINN.org, RAINN.org, 800-656-HOPE.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I feel like we could go on for a long time. This was a beautiful experience.
This is really lovely. I'm so looking forward to it. And yes, we are going to have you back. We're going to talk about, and we're going to plant the seed. What does the dirty O mean?
Are we going to talk about it, or are we planting the seed?
We're planting the seed. You'll have to go check out coming up. Dirty O coming
TV
up.
series, radio show, talk show, and website.
And then we'd love for you to follow Lisa Haisha and on Amazon with Soul Blazing.
Yes.
We have that coming up. And
it's coming up very quickly, which we're excited about. Like early
December. Early December, it's coming up. And then the trip to Egypt. We're so excited. We can't wait for you to come. Be a new you with us, this new trip, and activating more of your mystery senses. So, Miracle Makers, share this video. 1 in 4, 1 in 4, 1 in 16. Just the conversation here can be enough for someone to stop carrying the burden alone or walking down towards the depression and the suicide walk. This show might be it for them, to help them step into their superhero miracle maker self.
Yes.
And so please share this. Please leave us some comments. We'd love to know what you think. Thank you so much. Thank you.
The past is history, the future mystery. This moment